Good morning, ladies. This morning we're going to do another embossing technique without using embossing folders. I'll let you see my sample. I've stamped an image on this one and stamped a sentiment. The one I'm going to be able to show you is using dies. I've broken out my memory box dies just to let you see two different ways of using them. And as I say, we're not going to be using an embossing folder at all. So I'll let you see how to do this one. So we'll start with an A4 sheet of card and we will fold it in half. And that gives you your base card. Okay. Now for your matting and layering, I'm using gold this time. I used grey on my first one because I used grey ink. So this, your first mat and layer will be 5 5/8 by 8. And that will go flat onto the card. Your next layer will be the same as your base card, and that will be 5.5 by 7 7/8, and that will leave a small border all the way around. Then your next piece will be 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. Now I've used diamond ones this time, and you need 2 dies, nesting dies, and you want 2 sizes close together because you don't want a big border. So I used rectangles the first time. I'm using, I'm going to wait to say a diamond, but I can hear my granddaughter screaming at me in the background going, "It's a rhombus!" But never mind. So as you can see, I've cut out, using the bit of card that was cut off the bottom here, to cut out my frame. And as you can see, it's going to be a very, very thin frame. Okay, and then using the smallest one, I've cut out a shape and I've tried to keep it even. I haven't put it right in the centre. I've kept it over to the side slightly, and I've tried to keep it even here, here, and here. Okay, so now if you get your scoreboard, and I'm going to do, because I'm using a diamond, rhombus, whatever, I am going to do a diagonal pattern. So I'm putting one corner at the top and one corner at the bottom. Now you will need a ball tool that is not going to disappear inside your groove. Okay, so I'm using this size one, and I'm going to start right in the centre. Just make sure you've got a good groove. And I'm going to miss one and do the next one. And I'm going to do the next one. And I'm going to miss one. Now, if you feel that that's going to move, if you get a piece of tape and tape that down, and then you can move your tape when you come to do the other side. Oh. So I'm going to, because I'm working on this side, I'm going to tape that down there, and that way it won't move. And then I'm going to do the next one. And you can see my pattern that so I'm going to miss one and go on to the next one. Do the next one. And then miss one. You can do any pattern you want. My first one, I did like a tartan pattern. So I did half an inch, and then I did 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an inch. So I did it half an inch, and then I started at 1.5 inches, did 4, and then 2.5 inches, did 4, 3.5 inches, if you can see that, and then 4.5 inches and did 4. And then when I turned it round, I started at half an inch again, but I only did 2. And an inch, 2, an inch, 2, an inch. So I only did 2 going across the way, but I did 4 coming down. As I say, the beauty of this is you can do any pattern you want. So I'm doing 2, missing 1, 2, missing 1. Okay. And I'm going to do the next one because I'm working back on myself, and I'm going to take my bit of tape off and put it on the other side. Just make sure you've got and then, as I say, I'll miss one. And you can see how simple it is. And then just keep going until you've got it. Now I think I've went, yeah, I did. And there you go. Now, I can just leave that if I want, or I can now put it on that way. And start coming. And I'm going to keep exactly the same pattern. So, what did I do? Miss one. And this is why you need the frame, because it's going to hide all the rough edges round your aperture. And there we go. I'm going to take my tape off again. And just make sure you've got it back in your groove, and then tape it down on that side. So I'm going to miss one there and come to the next one. And there we go. How simple was that? There we go. Now, on this one, I want to put a pattern along the front. So if I get my this is back to front, remember. So if I get my sentiment die, and I'm going to do 1, 2 there, and then 1, 2 there. Okay. Very, very simple. Very simple. And there we go. Now, I'm going to put my border on flat, and this is when I put it on now. So hopefully this glue works, and there we go. and just make sure it's on nice and straight and you've covered all your there, and that's on nice and straight. And I'm going to put foam tape on the back of this one. I might get foam pads actually, because I can cut them down. You maybe think this is overkill, but I didn't want any saggy bits. I might get another one in there. I'm going to have to cut this down. There we go. As I say, you might think it's overkill, but right. So as I said, this goes on flat. And so does this. And it's just a very small border all the way around. Now, if you make sure you know where you're, and if you get a pencil and just mark where your aperture is, that way you can centre your flowers. Now, as you can see, the flower that I'm using, I'm not going to get the leaves in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that off. So and I'm going to Okay. And then I'm going to bring the leaves up. So you're going to see them at the bottom. Now, as you can see, this has got bits that come out of it. So I'm going to get my mat and a slightly bigger ball tool and just give them a wee bit of shape. And then I want them lifted. So I know that one's going to fit in there. And that one's going to fit in there. And I'm just going to do that to them all. I want this one quite high up. And there we go. So it's like paper piecing, but I'm giving it a bit of a lift. And there we go. Make sure I take the off my pokey tool. Now, take that out of the way and take off my marks. And then it's just a case of putting my topper on, a top piece on. This is the worst thing about putting foam pads on, having to take all the backs off. That's how I prefer foam tape, but I'm running short of foam tape. I've got From the sublime to the ridiculous, I've got really thin stuff and I've got really, really thick stuff. I've nothing in between at the moment. I think I'll need to order some more. Irene, you asked me where I got mine. I'm sure it's from Craft Stash. I usually buy it. I got a load at one time. And then that goes on at the top as even as you can get it. And then a sentiment. And that's going to go. I've just done it singly, but if you want to lift it up by doing 2 or 3, then you can. And a very, very plain, simple card. And I will probably put, if I can see where mine are. Yeah, the gold ones are here. I've got 2 different gold ones. I think I'll use the darker one. You know me and my pearl drops. And there we go. A very, very plain, simple card, but quite effective. If you want to go over your embossing 2 or 3 times to make it stand out more, you can. I did with my other one. I went over my first side again to make that pop. But very, very plain, very, very simple, but a very effective card. Okay, so there you go. 2 different ways to do it. One with stamping and one with die cut. The ribbon, I forgot to say it yet, I made a wee bow and I coloured just a plain white piece of thin, very thin ribbon, the same colour as I did my roses. And I just used my inks just to watercolour the wee stamped image I've got there. This thin ribbon, see when you get new clothes, you always get ribbon tags. I always cut them out of my clothes and I keep them. And mostly they're either white or cream. And they're great for colouring up, for just wee bows. So that's what that is. That's been in one of my tops and I've now used it on my cards. So there we go. So happy crafting. See you later.